Right, back live with you tonight here on In Focus, and thanks for staying on. The DA-led Umngeni municipality and the ANC-administered Msunduzi municipality in KwaZulu-Natal are back at it again at odds over the Hilton rates, which really is the matter that has been going on for some time. Affected parties held marathon meetings and signed a memorandum of understanding on the electricity supply in the upmarket suburb. This after Umngeni Mayor Chris Pappas asked the provincial government to mediate in the process. The mayor joins us now to explain a little bit further on this. Mayor, good to have you, and thank you very much for coming on. This matter has been going on since July 2020. How does it happen that there is this illegality, or if you like, unauthorized service provision that is affecting the Hilton area?
Thanks for having me, and thanks for giving me an opportunity to explain. So historically, the village of Hilton, now a town, was so small that it used to connect its electricity power down to Pietermaritzburg. That was the most, the logical thing to do. And over time, as the municipalities developed, the Hilton area found itself under the Umngeni jurisdiction, and the rest of Msunduzi then continued. But in this whole process, NERSA gave the electricity distribution license for the Hilton area to the Umngeni municipality. So we sit with a situation where one municipality is providing services without a license in another municipality without an agreement to do so. So there's various levels of complication here that we're trying to resolve, or have been trying to resolve, and we feel that we're getting nowhere with that municipality. So
in terms of infrastructure, maintenance, in terms of billing, who's responsible for that?
So at the moment, it's Msunduzi, but there's a number of problems with that. The first thing is accountability. So when the residents of Hilton have a problem, it's not the mayor or the municipal manager of Msunduzi that have to account to residents about electricity. Secondly, when there are financial issues in that municipality, it has a knock-on effect onto the Hilton residents. For example, Msunduzi owes, I think at last time I checked, it was about 500 million rand to Eskom. Now, when there are things like load reduction and their licenses are being questioned, that starts to affect their customers. And in this case, it is residents and businesses in the Umngeni area. Another thing is around economic development. So if we are not able to provide and upgrade infrastructure at the rate that we want to as the Umngeni municipality, and are relying on an external body that we don't have an agreement with, it really does hamper our ability to guide and direct economic development in that area. So there's a number of issues that we have with this particular setup, and we've been trying to resolve it. But there's obvious reasons why the Msunduzi municipality doesn't want to resolve it, and I think the article in the Witness earlier this week really, puts it down to the nuts and bolts of it.
Yeah, and the nuts and bolts of it, they're saying equally for yourself, the rates that the residents pay there, it's an upmarket area where some of the properties, I think, are over 10 million or so. So the rates that they pay are quite lucrative, and a lifeline to Msunduzi local municipality, but could prove to be a lifeline to your municipality as well.
So just for clarity, the residents of Hilton pay their rates or property tax to the Umngeni municipality. But what they pay to Msunduzi is their electricity tariffs or the electricity fees. And you are right, there is revenue to be generated. But before we even get there, and this is the argument that we've made to Msunduzi, is that there's other things that we want to ensure before we even talk about the revenue for Hilton. Firstly is the quality of service that they provide to the residents. It's not uncommon that people sit there 2 or 3 days without electricity. That's the first issue. The second is whether or not Msunduzi is actually compliant with their NERSA license. And the third is basic maintenance. So it takes months and months for streetlights to be repaired. Things like that in the Umngeni municipality, we do a lot quicker. So yes, obviously there is revenue to be generated, but at the same time, that's never been our primary drive when engaging with Msunduzi. I think another thing that is perhaps more important for us is credit control. Yeah. So municipalities are able to obviously generate rates and other various sources of income. And if you don't pay, then we cut your electricity off. Now, we don't have that ability in the Hilton area because Msunduzi does not want to sign a memorandum of understanding with us to say if there is someone in arrears, then we give you a disconnection notice, and they do it as a service provider. So it's very complicated, but at the end of the day, there's a couple of things that are important. Firstly is that a municipality cannot provide services outside its municipal boundary without a written agreement from the entity that it's providing to. Secondly is that Msunduzi does not have a license to provide electricity in Hilton.
Yeah.
So there are serious Auditor General questions and financial questions around how they're justifying to put the money that they generate from electricity sales in Hilton in their books. And that's something that we're going to be raising with the Auditor General. And there's a number of other issues that we've raised with them, but they've been stalling and unwilling to engage in a proactive manner, as you say, since 2020.
So you've got a portfolio of evidence, you're saying, to support the statements that you're making of, for example, intermittent electricity supply, lack of infrastructure maintenance, lack of service delivery, for example, changing of bulbs and so on and so forth, but also communication that has been going on between yourselves and the Msunduzi municipality since 2020.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know it's been very frustrating for the Hilton residents, and we've asked them to be patient with us because one of our commitments to them as an area was to make sure that their electricity supply was stable. It was never about the revenue, but about stability rather. So we've undertaken for a very long time, ticking all the boxes in terms of intergovernmental relations, trying to work with our neighbors. But we know there's various instability there, from municipal managers that change, twice a year, to managers that are fired every second week. There's various issues, but those are not our problems. Our problems are to serve and protect the residents that fall within our jurisdiction. So we've compiled everything, and we gave them until the 2nd of August. It was actually a self-imposed deadline by them.
Yeah.
They failed to meet that. They gave us a very poor excuse to say that they were attending a provincial crime summit or something like that, that they knew about for a long time. We have now officially written to Provincial Treasury and Provincial COCTA to ask them to start the mediation process in terms of a registered intergovernmental dispute. Failing that, we will then go to court in terms of our constitutional rights to render services in our own municipality. So
the reason you're also doing that is because, just for clarity, there is now a council resolution saying to Msunduzi they must sign the MOU.
Yes, it's their own resolution. So again, in January this year, I again had to, and I don't like to use the word threaten, but I had to draw a line in the sand to say, if you do not move forward with this, we are going to have to declare this dispute, this intergovernmental dispute. So they committed to a council resolution by the 31st of January, which they did. And in that council resolution, it agrees to two things. That one, it authorizes the municipal manager to sign an MOU with the Umngeni municipality, and that two, a public participation process takes place. Neither of those have happened. We were proactive as the municipality and started an electronic public participation process and handed that over to the Msunduzi municipality as part of doing their work for them. But now we find ourselves 6 months later. It was actually insulting. At one stage, we got an MOU from Msunduzi municipality. It looked like they'd taken a previous MOU for another project and simply sent it to us. It still made reference to inmates and how inmates were going to clean servitudes in the Msunduzi municipality. So they really didn't put any thought to it. It was, again, just sending us something for the sake of meeting a deadline. So we do feel a little bit insulted and a little bit taken for granted. And we are moving forward now with the intergovernmental dispute. And if that fails, as I said, we do believe we have a very strong footing in terms of our constitutional right to render services in a sustainable and fair way to the residents of the Hilton and Umngeni area.
So, I mean, also on that article in The Witness, one of the questions that is being raised is the question of the ANC previously held both municipalities. I'm sure you know that. And this was never an issue. But they're saying ever since you came in, you've really been hell-bent on resolving this issue and getting those rates. But, I mean, overall in the province, the DA is in collaboration with the IFP, the ANC, and other parties. Why couldn't you collaborate on this?
So, I mean, we have committed all as political parties to work together, but that does not absolve us of our responsibilities as an elected representative locally to, number one, uphold the law. As I've said, there's some serious breaches of the law. But number two, to follow the various processes in trying to do so. Now, regardless of whether, there's a PNU or GNU in place, we've undertaken this with our colleagues in Msunduzi in a fair and professional manner, but we haven't received that in return. And even since the 29th of May elections, that hasn't changed. Their deadline was the 2nd of August. Now, that's almost 2 months after the elections. So what Msunduzi's main issue is that they do not want to lose control of the revenue that they receive, because what they're doing with that is that they're using the revenue from Hilton, instead of putting it back into the infrastructure of Hilton, they are using that to cover their losses throughout the municipality, which is generally practiced at local government. But that only makes sense if the infrastructure where you are doing the subsidization is of a standard, or the quality of services is up to a standard that you can do so. And that's not happening. So yeah, we have done this, the whole process, quarterly, and we haven't got the same respect in return.
So the other issue they're raising is it's not going to be as easy as you're making it out to be to supply the Hilton village, because I suppose of the setup and how the infrastructure would have been built. For yourselves, I mean, do you see that as a challenge?
Again, this is not a disputed point, Thabo. We understand what the network looks like. We understand where the electricity comes from. What we're saying to them is that in terms of the law, we need a written agreement that agrees to a few things. Number one is who is accountable. Number two, what are the basic things that we want to see done? If a resident reports a street light, how long does it take to get fixed? If there are basic, if a fuse has blown on a pole, it shouldn't take 3 days to fix. What do we want to see as the custodians of the area, the legal authority in terms of investment? Where do we want to see spatial planning go? All of these things go into a memorandum of understanding that says, Umngeni, you are the competent authority, and Msunduzi, you are now the service provider, and you are held to certain standards. At the moment, that doesn't happen. There's no accountability. There's no sharing. There's nothing. It's like a black hole. And when there's power outages, you don't get feedback, and the call center doesn't work. And understandably, the residents get angry with their local councillors and their local municipality, because people actually don't care where the power comes from. All they want is that the power to stay on. And it's our obligation to try and make sure that that happens as the constitutional authority, or the constitutionally authorized body in that area, to make sure that that happens.
Mayor, we appreciate your time. Thanks so much for coming on. That's Chris Pappas there, Mayor of the Umngeni local municipality. We did extend, of course, an invitation to Msunduzi to, of course, respond to this. And as soon as they do, we'll give them a chance to do likewise.